right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Makar Kudash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone that rule well. Peace, salutations, and blessings be unto the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the globe, in the sincere hopes of being delivered in these last days. All right, this is the brother Yakanan from the GMS England branch, and inspiration for this video is taken from the Danny Jones podcast episode. I believe it was conducted a few weeks ago, and he had Catherine Austin Fitz on the show. All right, as you can see here on the screen. Now, I've done plenty of videos in the past on her content and on, the information that she goes into, because she touches a lot upon, this New World Order system and the agenda, and the plans of the wicked elites of Esau Edom. All right, the ones that rule the world, in secrecy. All right, Rothschilds, the elite ruling banking families, all right, beginning with the Rothschilds on down. All right, she goes into, the carbon footprint agenda. She goes into all of that, cashless society. Okay, so she has, a lot of interesting content out there. Now, she's an insider herself because she actually used to work as an assistant secretary under the presidency of George H.W. Bush, back in the early 90s. All right, she was actually a part, if you will, of that cabinet. All right, if that's the right term, for me to use. So she herself is an insider, and she has a lot of in-depth, wealth of information concerning the financial sector. All right, because again, she's involved in that industry, to this day, if I'm not mistaken. So again, she has a lot of information, and she goes in depth concerning, certain subject, in that arena. Now, in this present time, she has been, exposing, a lot of information and the inner workings of, the wickedness that's actually going down, which that, in itself is biblical prophecy. Because when we go to Psalm 64 and verse 8, the scriptures tell us that, their tongues shall fall upon themselves. All right. And that's happening, in these last days. You're having whistleblowers, former, affiliates, coming out and exposing the truth. And that's why the scriptures also say in Jeremiah 49 and 10, the Lord said that he would make Esau bare, and he shall not be able to hide himself. All right. And in these last days, that is actually happening. All right. That's being conducted right now upon the earth. And that is a heavy sign of the downfall of the kingdom of Esau Edom. All right. The fact that he's being exposed on such a high level. All right. And the inner workings of his demonic system is being brought to light. All right. So without further delay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, this video. It's about 2.5 minutes long. All right. And she goes into a lot of interesting information. As the Spirit wills, we'll go into the scriptures. All right.
What do you mean? Can you define Mr. Global?
Is the committee that runs the world. So okay. There's a committee at the top that makes all the big decisions. And my nickname for it is Mr. Global.
Who's your best guess of who Mr. Global is?
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over-influenced by a cult. So I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah.
Wow. So you heard what she said. She said, you basically have Mr. Global, all right, which is her name for it. And she also made mention of interdimensional demonic intelligence, all right, because what she's basically saying is that the wicked elites, that are running, the world, they're influenced by a higher demonic force, all right, which is true, all right. But again, when we have this truth, when we're illuminated with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and we know how to break down these scriptures, right? We understand that as according, to the scriptures, when we go to and let's get it right quick. When we go to the book of Job, chapter 9 and verse 24, the Lord already told us what the deal was, all right? Now this is Job chapter 9 and verse 24, and it says the earth is given into the hand of the wicked, okay? He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. So the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So this current rulership that we are experiencing, that we are living under, is the kingdom of Esau Edom. Okay. And that kingdom was given unto him, all right, by the power that we worship, the power that we serve, that is Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. All right, so the Heavenly Father gave the power to Esau Edom, all right, in these last days, and also in form of, the Greeks who are Edomites, and the Romans after that who are also Edomites. And now we're in the second extension of the Roman Empire in these last days, all right, Babylon the Great and the whole system, all right, in general, okay. This is, the kingdom of Esau Edom that is ruling upon the earth right now. But we are living in the end of that system, of that kingdom in these last days. All right. And that's why these prophecies are getting ready, to come to pass concerning the MOTB, concerning World War III. All right. So on and so forth. So we're living in a very significant and important time. And that's why all of this information is coming out. Okay. As it tells us in the book of Daniel, knowledge shall be increased. Okay, we're living in that time. We're living in the time of information. All right, so again, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. All right, so the wicked, who are the Edomites, are ruling the earth. All right, the so-called white man, beginning with their elites. Okay, they are ruling the earth, and they are the wicked. So when she made the statement saying interdimensional demonic intelligence, yeah, that's true, because they are being controlled through the left, all right, through the left-hand side. And that's why we say that the Edomites upon the earth, they are the physical manifestation of the spiritual demon Satan, okay, on the earth. Okay, they are the wicked, and that's their lot. They were set up to conduct that lot, to conduct the works of evil. All right? Because the Heavenly Father deals with balance. And that's why the scriptures tell us that a false balance is an abomination unto the Lord. All right? The Lord deals with balance. There's good upon the earth and there's evil. Okay? But we're living in the time of the evil rulership of Esau Edom. All right? Now let's go back to the video. Let's go back a bit.
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over influenced by a cult. So I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this thing.
Yeah, the guy in the background, that's funny every time I hear it, he said, wow. When she said that term, interdimensional demonic intelligence, he just said, wow. But hey, that's the truth of the situation, that, you have high level evil, entities ruling upon the earth. And I want to get right quick. Let's get Malachi 1. All right, because they are the borders of wickedness. Let's get straight to the point. This is Malachi chapter 1. And, well, you know what? We'll start from verse 2. And it reads, I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob, and I hated Esau. All right? So the Lord hated Esau, all right, and his whole nation. All right, the Lord hates the Edomites because they are the wicked, all right, that the Bible speaks of. All right, and this goes back, all the way to Genesis, the 25th chapter, all right, where you had Jacob and Esau, come into the world. All right, and Jacob's blessing was what? The sword. Okay, again, back to basics, man. And it says, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Verse 4, and here's the point. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down. They shall call them the border of wickedness. And the people against whom the Lord have indignation, which is righteous anger forever. Now, in the NLT, it says, Esau's descendants in Edom may say, we have been shattered, but we will rebuild the ruins. But the Lord of heaven's armies replies, they may try to rebuild, but I will demolish them again. Their country will be known as the land of wickedness, and their people will be called the people of whom the Lord is forever angry. And as the scriptures tell us, the Lord is angry with the wicked every day. All right, so they are the borders of wickedness. All right, and what a title, to actually, have upon you and your whole nation of people. They are the borders of wickedness. And that's evident, how they live, upon the earth. That's evident, when you analyze their works and how they are as a nation of people. And it's even more evident when you analyze, the elites of this nation of people that actually have power, that have the means to execute their desires. And what are they choosing to do? They're choosing to lock the world down. They're choosing to anoint themselves as higher powers upon the earth. Okay? And they go against the power that is Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. They don't respect the Lord. Okay? But that's why they're going to be destroyed. All right? They wander on in darkness, as the scriptures tell us. And the way they carry on is like there is no higher power. They go on like they are the top of the totem pole, man. But they're not. They're fools. Okay? Now let's go back to the video.
Which is operating demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this thing about good and evil is real. And I can't find it anymore. I found it once. There were in the 30s, a British physicist got up and said, we are being manipulated, but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions.
And that's also a true statement. Let me just pull that back.
But from other dimensions. We are being manipulated, but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions. So I think, if you study Christianity and you read the Bible, you're dealing with both divine intelligence and demonic intelligence.
Right. So you have, vessels upon the earth that host divine intelligence, and you have vessels upon the earth that host demonic intelligence. All right. Now the divine intelligence, that would be the hosters of that would be the elect, the elect of Yahweh Shem Yahushai that have this truth that are illuminated on the right hand side. And then the vessels that host the demonic intelligence, that's the elites of Esau Edom, okay, that carry out the wicked works upon the earth, that are trying to bring forth, this new world order system, that are trying to make you worship them rather than worship Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right, so there's truth in what she is saying, okay? Now the scriptures also say, man's goings is of the Lord. How can a man understand his own way? All right, so we're all programmed by Yahweh Shem Yahushai, all right, to carry out the works that we do upon the earth. It's either you represent the left-hand side or you represent the right-hand side, okay? Now, another scripture, let's go to Romans chapter 9, and right, let's go Romans chapter 9 and verse 21. And it reads, have not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? Okay, so the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushai, he's the one that has that has power, over the clay to fashion it how he wants it to be. All right. So whether, you've been put into the lot of the wicked or the lot of the righteous, that wasn't your decision. All right. The Lord just made it so. And you have to carry out the works according to where you've been put. Okay. And that's why you got to fear Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, man. You got to fear the Lord. All right. And it says, what if God willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. Okay. So the wicked elites of Esau Edom, they are fitted to destruction. That's why what they push is of death. That's why they don't follow the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai or promote that in society. That's why they don't follow the land Sabbath. That's why the food is poisoned. That's why the water is contaminated. Okay, that's why the mind state of the people is off. Okay, because it's this crooked, bent, demonic spirit that is running things out here, man. Okay, under the vibration of the left-hand side. Let's go a little bit back.
Divine intelligence and demonic intelligence. And I think too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Yeah, and these are things that we've been teaching, for many, many years, beginning with Elder Apostles R onto the other apostles and elders on down. All right. The people, that run, this world, all right, the Edomites that run this world, the elites, they are demonic. All right. They worship, Satan. Okay. They're taking orders, from higher entities on the left-hand side. All right. But them entities are also controlled by Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Again, that's the scary thing about the power that we serve, man. All right. That is the scary thing about the power that we serve. Now let's go into the book of Ephesians. Ephesians 6. All right. Now this is Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10. And it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. Now in the NLT it says, put on all God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. All right. And Esau Edom is about to upgrade, his strategies in these last days. All right. But to no avail. All right. Because he's not going to be able to deceive the elect concerning, the taking of that MOTB. All right. But things are going to get more intense. All right. Things are going to get more draconian. And, you're going to witness the strategies of this devil, intensifying these last days, man. Because as it tells us in in Revelation 12 and 12, the scriptures tell us that he's going to come down with great wrath because he knoweth that he have but a short time. All right. Now, again, it says, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle, and here's the point I wanted to bring out, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. All right. So that hits the nail on the head in regards to what she's talking about when she mentioned interdimensional, demonic intelligence. All right, because they are powered, they are fueled, they are directed by the left-hand side, by Satan. Okay, and that's why they broadcast that energy through their TV, through TV series, through advertisements. Okay, they broadcast these things through symbols, subliminal messages, predictive programming. What they represent, they put out there in your face. Okay, in various different forms, because they're showing you the energy that they're channeling. They're showing you the spirit that they're coming in. Okay, and we do the same thing on the right-hand side. All right, so again, it says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, right? The rulers of the darkness of this world, all right? They conduct, rituals, satanic rituals. They do sacrifices, okay? SRA, all of that kind of stuff. They go into, very low, very degenerate works in order to keep that left-hand side power, okay? And it says, of this world against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. All right? Now let's go back to the video.
Deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Wow.
So I just read a book, and I have no idea. So I've tried to find every theory to explain the paranormal stuff. So I'm not telling you this is true, but I just finished reading a book called Final Event by Nick Redfern. I don't know if you've ever read it. And he describes it's a exploration of a group of military intelligence in the United States called the Collins Elite.
Oh yeah, I've heard about the Collins Elite. Yeah.
And
right there, she's about to go into the UFOs, which we know the UFOs to be the chariots of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Those are the heavenly vehicles that the angels travel around in, and she's gonna go into that information, and how the abductions, so on and so forth, and she links it all to that, which again, there's truth in that also, but again, we have the untainted, if you will, breakdowns and information and scope, on such matters. Okay, we have, the 100% truth. We know what's going on out here, man. We gotta be thankful. All right, we have, the mysteries. All right, we have, the higher levels of information that, people desire. All right, through Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Now, another scripture I wanted to get is Isaiah 47, man. Because again, the wicked elites of Esau Edom, they worship Satan. And they have, their witches and, their enchantments, so on and so forth, that they use in order to channel, their energy. All right. Now let's start from let me get straight to the point, man. It's Isaiah 47 and verse 10. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it have perverted thee. All right. So the wicked elites of Esau Edom, they have been perverted by their wisdom and by their knowledge. All right. And the wisdom and knowledge that they have, it says in the Apocrypha, the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. All right. So ultimately, the wisdom that they have is not really regarded as wisdom. All right. Because it's from the left-hand side. True wisdom is on the right-hand side. All right. True wisdom, embodies life. Okay. So it says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness. Thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it have perverted thee. And thou hast said in thy heart, I am, and none else beside me. Like what I was saying before. They set themselves up as Yahweh Shem Yahushai. They set themselves up as the Most High is upon the earth. When they're merely just men, as it goes into in Ezekiel. All right? Now verse 11 says, therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth. And mischief shall fall upon thee, and thou shalt not be able to put it off. And desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now, and this is the point, stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries. All right, so they deal in magic, they deal, in enchantments. Okay, they do these things. in order to spread their power and spread their influence upon the earth. And it goes into that in the book of Nahum, the 3rd chapter too. They use witchcraft to gain control over the people. They use witchcraft in their pharmaceutical industry, man. Pharmakia. All right. Now in the NLT it says, now use your magical charms, use the spells you have worked at all these years. Maybe they will do you some good. Maybe they can make someone afraid of you. Right? Now it says here, thou art wearied in the multitudes of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. All right, which ultimately, all right, their councils, their astrologers, their stargazers, so on and so forth, are not going to be able to save them from the wrath of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay, because at that moment, they're going to stop receiving guidance from the left-hand side. Because again, Satan works for the Most High, going back to the book of Job. All right? Satan is a double agent. All right? Satan, who they trust in, Satan, who they worship, and who's been guiding them, for generations, is a double agent and is really working for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. All right? So the wicked elites of Esau Edom are totally through. It's over for them. It is over for the wicked elites of Esau Edom and the nation of Esau Edom in general. It's fucking over, man. All right? So it says, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. All right, so they use, all of these methods. They use these wizards and these witches and astrologers and stargazers in order to tell them things so they can advance in their agenda. All right, they have, all of these different, they got Space Delta 17, these different operations. They've got what else? All kind of demonic campaigns that they have, that they're running, to try and, find out more, about the spiritual realm and, ultimately conquer, the Lord upon his return, which goes into that in 2 Nations, the 13th chapter. But again, these are feeble thoughts. All right. And that's why it says in Obadiah, that pride have deceived thee. They've been deceived by their pride. They've been deceived into thinking that they can actually combat the Lord upon his return. All right, this is what we're dealing with, concerning Esau Edom. He's a total fool. He's a total demonic idiot, and he's going to be shown. All right, the Lord is going to show him, what true power really is in these last days, man. All right, so Lord willing, that was edifying, and until the next one, I'll say shalom.